joy, he is quoted as saying, "I believe with a steadfast faith that there can never be a situation that is utterly, totally hopeless. Hope is deeper than optimism and very, very close to unshakable. Resignation and cynicism are easier, more self-soothing postures that do not require the raw vulnerability and tragic risk of hope. To choose hope is to step firmly forward into the howling wind, bearing one's chest to the elements, knowing that in time the storm will pass. In your work to protect Mother Earth, it must get despairing at times and feel, as we've talked about, overwhelming. What spiritual disciplines do you practice to remain hopeful, to stand into the howling wind and stay engaged in your work?"
So I'll be honest, I really struggle with maintaining that hope a lot of the time, just because, home for me is a kind of a constant reminder of the problems that we face and how, what's happening in my own backyard is having this huge impact on the world. And so I will say that it's something that I'm still learning to balance. And there's a lot of fear, and learning to coexist with that and to be okay with it and carry it gracefully is something that I'm learning to do. And I guess one way I would say for me that spiritual practices that kind of help me stay hopeful and grounded is really being with the community of people in Carlsbad and Southeast New Mexico that are doing this work. As I mentioned, they're incredibly brave, and the fact that they started all of this was incredibly brave. And so being with them in community and the times we are, validating each other, and also connecting with Mother Earth through rituals. Joan leads often rituals and things like that. That for me really fills me up and keeps me going in this work when it does get overwhelming or it seems like it's really just a drop in the bucket. It's those moments that I go back to. The other thing that definitely gives me hope, especially after the week we had, is young people. And young people showing up and being aware of the issues that we have and wanting to be a part of the solution. That is so important, and for me personally really uplifted me. So that would be probably how I maintain hope, is through community.
Yeah, I think my answer is the same one as Kayleen, but I want to start with saying, and because I felt how you were describing what you feel, and it's the same case for me, being so close to the border. When I started this work, being more specifically inserted in the climate, environmental justice advocacy, migration advocacy, it was quite the time to be in it. Of course, the pandemic still happening, the Ukraine war, the influx of migrant refugees who we're now seeing, all the negative effects, the fires, you name it. So I came in this very specific time last year, and it was too much, and definitely it took me get all my tools in terms of prayer and connecting with God. But one of the ones that helped me the most was really going out there with nature, and just I would go to the park because I live in a city in El Paso, so I would just go to a park, lay on the ground, touch the grass, and kind of stay rooted. When I have the opportunity, the closest places for me to experience nature is Ruidoso and Cloudcraft. So I go and escape a little to the forest and just be quiet and listen to nature. But the biggest one that has helped me is connecting with community, other people who are doing the work, and I'm so blessed to meet many people here doing the climate justice work, because it helps have hope that we are, doing progress. And even though it might be frustrating at times, knowing that we're doing something, that is already giving us hope. And another one for me, as I work really closely with migrants who come to, for me, connecting with them and hearing their stories helped me ease my anxiety on all global issues that are happening, because they are so resilient, and they come with an incredibly journey that few people can understand what they go through. And just by doing that, they show us how much we should fight for life. So having just regular conversations with them and their stories, hearing that they want a better future for the children, they really have this hope for life, has been the best for me. It has helped me the most in this job.
Yes, definitely agree. Community is healing. Just having the space of affirmations that you're not doing this alone, that there's the space to hold your grief, to hold your joys and your successes and the triumphs and the times that you have to get knocked down to get back up again. That's definitely like a huge part of it. I definitely don't think any one of us could go very far without having that connection to one another. And then another thing for me as well is just being receptive to, you know, where the universe wants to lead you. Like that's something that I learned and has kind of helped me maintain this path that I don't really know where I'm going towards. But it's led me from, you know, like from Arizona and then going into this kind of work and connecting with IPL and all these incredible people and just doing things that I never thought I'd get to be part of, and just seeing all these different signs and being receptive, and I think just being able to bear witness and observe and like have these affirmations from the universe kind of like along the way has helped me a lot as well. To have faith, like it's kind of like a sign for me of like, oh, there's a purpose, like this is a drop here, a drop there, but it's strategic, and so it's just, I think, that faith in it leading towards something, just seeing how it's kind of coming together in hindsight, and like, okay, like that for me, I think, helps me to keep going, that it's something that is on purpose.
Yeah, I guess for me, I see I'm a Catholic by birth and education and spirituality, and one thing that has always been like a really rooting part of that faith tradition for me is this kind of concept that despair is sort of a temptation, and that, you know, it's like easy to get sucked into it and to indulge in it, but that for us anyway, for Catholics, we have this, you know, like our most holy, most ritual day of our year is Easter Vigil, not Easter morning. Easter Vigil is like our most sacred traditional space, and that's the day before Jesus rises from the dead, right? So that's that moment when there's such heavy grief, and there's doubt, and there's uncertainty, and you don't know yet what the outcome is going to be, right? That's faith. It's like if you knew that it was going to turn out fine, that's knowledge, right? You don't need faith for that if you know what's going to happen. So you need to kind of figure out how do you resist the temptation to despair and to make space for your grief, and to kind of get into that sort of Holy Saturday sort of mindset of like, you know, can I believe that something better is coming? And just sort of think about that. So that's a space whenever I feel the temptation to despair, I try and remember my Holy Saturday brain of like, all right, this is the dark moment. But is it, you know, like, can I have some faith and some hope that things are going to get better? And that's the sort of spiritual grounding place that I try to go to.
Thank you so much. These were so important for all of us to hear, because certainly all of us yield to that temptation to despair. So we are reminded tonight of the importance of community. So if you feel like you're alone, to remember that you are not, and to seek out others who are working on some of the same issues you are and have the same concerns you are. To remember that there are young people who are concerned about these things that so many of my generation have left uncared for. To remember to go out into nature. One of the books that I wrote started with the question of, can beauty save us? And so I wrote about a florist and flowers, and at the end of the book realized, yes, indeed, beauty can save us. So I do think being in nature is so healing and important. And the other piece that I thought about in what was shared of lying on the earth and seeing the skies, to remember that this is who we're caring for, so to stay literally in touch with the planet, to care for that, to touch the planet, to let the water run through your fingers, I think is a part of our healing and wholeness. I also love that you mentioned to hear the stories of those who suffer, because sometimes we think we have it so bad, and then we hear the stories of those just trying to get here, because here is not so bad for them, and to hear what they have come through to get here can kind of give us the resilience to stay in the fight. Also, I think to hear they're being receptive to the universe and understand that there's meaning and purpose, and to look for those affirmations, to look for those signs that will remind us we are on the good path. And I love, Emma, what you were saying with the despair being a temptation. And to remember that for those of us of faith, we're not just about Easter, but also in that time before Easter. And I have to say, as a woman, I'm just very buoyed by the fact that these are young women up here. And certainly remembering that it was the women who stayed at the cross, who didn't leave in the midst of the suffering. So I am cheered and feel exhilarated by your concern, and more than just your concern, but your faith and your willingness to stay in the fight. I will close this part of our session with a story some of you may have heard. Brian Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy, talks about meeting Rosa Parks for the first time. She had invited him to her house. Some of the older civil rights workers were meeting together. And so Rosa Parks asked Brian Stevenson about what he was doing. And he explained about his work with over-incarceration of African Americans, about the incarceration of young black men, and all that he was working to do. And Rosa Parks said to him, "My God, that's going to make you tired, tired, tired." And then she said, "That's why you must be brave, brave, brave." So thank you all. Be brave, brave.